All right, welcome back, everybody. This is another episode of the Defying All Odds podcast with my host, Raphael.
Yo.
And myself, Jesse. Today we have a very special guest. We have a rower, senior at Columbia College, as well as a PreMed student. Please welcome Alptuğ Kaynar.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Well,
Yes,
thanks for hopping on.
Yeah,
Without further ado, just introduce yourself to the viewers. Tell us a little about your background and how you got to Columbia.
All right, yeah. So my name's Alptuğ. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a senior at Columbia. You already said that, right? I'm a senior at Columbia College. So I've been rowing since my freshman year of high school, and junior year I was recruited to come row at Columbia. So I'm on the lightweight rowing team. So that means I'm like 160 pounds, basically. That's the kind of like weight cutoff for us. And besides that, like my parents are from Turkey, so that's actually my first language. I learned English in like kindergarten, first grade.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of all like the basic facts about me.
That's dope. Okay.
Yeah.
And you said specifically, I don't know much about rowing. To be
Oh,
honest.
no one does. It's okay. Yeah.
So I'm very intrigued. So you said you're part of the lightweight rowing team.
Yeah.
And you said specifically, obviously because of your weight.
Mhm.
So there's different. Do you guys have different sports? Or excuse me, like different teams for depending on your weight size?
Yeah. So at Columbia, and then pretty much every other college that has rowing, there's a lightweight team and then there's a heavyweight team. So the heavyweight, there's like no cutoff. You can be like 140 pounds, you can be like 240 pounds. It doesn't matter, but the most successful heavyweight rowers are usually like 6'3", 6'4", plus 200 pounds. So like pretty big guys. The average person isn't going to be really competitive as a heavyweight. And so lightweight's just like, historically, it's always been a category for people closer to average size. So like, as people have gotten bigger, the weight's actually gone up. So it used to be 150 pounds, 155, now it's 160 is like the maximum cutoff.
I see.
And yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like for average people to be able to participate in rowing as a sport.
That's dope. Okay. And why is that the taller you are and the more heavy you are, you tend to be more of a in the world of rowing, a better rower?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, there's some physics behind it, obviously. I think that's a little bit too boring for this, but it's like, I mean,
please.
it's all about like the leverage. So basically, like in rowing, it's not like what a lot of people I think imagine when they picture rowing. It's so you're actually like in a boat, right? And you have one oar. So it's like 8 people. There are 4 people who have an oar that goes to the right, 4 people with an oar that goes to the left.
Mm.
And then your seat kind of slides up and down. So your legs actually like go from flat to like compressed to flat.
Really?
And so that's like a stroke cycle.
Okay.
And so the taller you are, the longer your oar can move through the water.
Oh.
And basically every inch you have is a massive advantage in terms of speed.
Because of like your wingspan, basically.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can, I mean, there's some really, like one of the most successful Olympic rowers of all time is actually like 6'2", but his wingspan's like 6'8" or something like that.
Damn.
So, like it's more like the length of the limbs that matter. But that's kind of why the taller guys are usually better.
Okay.
Yeah, they're just better levers for the boat.
So like in terms of obviously, kind of like balancing you're obviously pre-med and then you're a rower. How do you I mean, there are a lot of times where I see you get out of class and you're like, oh, I got a 3-hour workout. How do you like kind of balance that out?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like it's something I've just done. Like since I started high school, right? I've been rowing, and rowing is, I think, I mean, there's always talent like involved. Like a talented individual is gonna be like starting ahead, but it's an unnatural motion, right? Because you're literally moving backwards in the boat. So
Okay.
it ends up being a lot more about like who is kind of working harder, who's working longer. And so like from like the day you start rowing, like it's kind of instilled in you that like it's a grind sport. So like however many hours you put in is however many medals you're gonna win. Is
Really?
at the end of the day. Yeah.
I see.
So it's not really as much of like a ramp up. It's like you're there and like you're just going. Like I've been doing like 2 workouts a day since like my like sophomore or junior year of high school, basically.
And how do you even work out for rowing? Like,
I mean, like the rowing machines in the gym.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So wait,
That's literally
Yeah.
Literally?
yeah, you just sit on there for like an hour or 2 and you just like work it out, basically.
I've used them a couple of times for like cardio's sake, but I never thought you would use that for.
No, yeah,
Then again, it's in the name.
It's
Yeah,
also,
exactly.
It's also used like
Yeah.
during pull day for like when you're doing back.
So yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
so-
Yeah, but so basically, like it's just kind of like ever since like I've been doing like real school,
Right.
I've also been rowing. So it's kind of all I've ever known. So, I mean, there are obviously like some days in college where it's like, bro, like I'm studying for this exam like while I'm on a stationary bike, like working out and stuff like that.
Jesus.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like I don't know. It's kind of like ingrained into me as like this time management. Like you just do what kind of has to be done for everything to happen.
Well, that goes back to like
Yeah.
the mentality aspect of things, right? When you're kind of focused on, obviously you have an end goal, right?
Yeah.
And you have a passion for rowing and you kind of want to combine both. And it's like, how do you make time? Well, you make time
Yeah.
by doing the time where you're doing both things at the same time. So clearly you've obviously mastered the art of time management
Hopefully.
a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What would you say is like your kind of like your biggest motivator, like when whether it's during a rowing competition or you got like that biochem exam coming up, like what keeps you moving forward?
I think, and this can be like a sort of like, it might be a little bit tangential, but something that's always stuck with me. The first year I was rowing was my freshman year of high school. I was like 14 years old, super unathletic kid. Like I was so bad. And my first coach said this to me, and it really stuck. He said, motivation's what's going to get you into the gym the morning after New Year's. You're going to work out once, and as soon as it's gone, you're not going to do it again.
Agreed.
Discipline is what keeps you coming back on that random Tuesday when you're like 3 months out from that race, and you don't want to be there, but you know it has to happen. And so that's kind of been my thing. Like I have honestly just loved that, like it's like rowing and school and everything I do is like kind of forced me to be disciplined.
Mhm.
So, you know, there aren't like that many big rivalries in rowing. There's no like homecoming game. There's no, you know, like this or that. Like your big race, it's once a year, and like you start training like 9 months before that full time, basically. So if you don't have that discipline, if you don't have that dedication, like race day's gonna come around and you're just gonna be slow.
It's just gonna catch up to you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's almost like when you're preparing for like, you see those people prepare for like marathons for like running.
Yeah.
Like the New York City Marathon's like what, 26.2 miles, and you have people that start planning like a year well in
Yeah,
advance.
exactly. So it's like, I mean, for me at least, it's just like knowing that like if I do this today, I'm gonna be a better version of myself tomorrow. And so
Absolutely.
that's what helps me at least keep disciplined and say like, I don't want to be here today necessarily, but I know if I don't do it today, tomorrow's gonna be worse.
Right.
Yeah, and that just
It's all
compounds.
about being the best version of yourself.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
I completely agree with that, especially like you said with discipline and the gym and in general. If you want to get better, you need to put in the discipline to then build a habit. And once you have a habit, from there it just
Yeah, then it's easy.
it's
You
easy.
just gotta be there.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You just gotta be there. Exactly. And I see you again. You're doing pre-med and rowing. So how is aside from the discipline part of it, but like does it overlap like the things that you have to like learn in pre-med that work well with rowing?
A little bit. I mean, like there is some overlap of like knowledge, like for, I mean, any sport, but like rowing partially, like in particular, because it's like, it's also a very like fitness-based sport, right? Like for
Right.
like football, basketball, you know, like the fun sports. It's
The
like,
fun
It can be fun up.
Yeah.
a little bit sometimes. Like for those sports, like,
Yeah.
you know, like nutrition, fitness, what obviously is like super important, but like the name of the game is skill in those
Right.
sports. For rowing, it's more like if you're fitter, stronger, etc. than the other guy, like you're gonna win the race 99 out of 100 times.
Okay.
And so that comes down to a lot more like your nutrition, your training, everything. So like that kind of stuff does actually overlap a little bit with pre-med, right? Like you need to know like how fast, like if I have a carb, like if I have a Gatorade or like a gel or something like that, like now, like midway through the workout, like when am I gonna feel the positive effects? Because like you can actually like run out of energy basically through a workout if it's long enough.
You're gonna run out of ATP, and then you're gonna have the lactic acid build up.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like some stuff like that that does overlap like knowledge wise, but
Yeah.
I mean that's like, I don't know, it's like very little. I think the biggest thing honestly is like teamwork. Like because rowing, how it works is there are 8 like guys who are actually rowing. There's
Oh,
one.
so not you by yourself?
No, it's 8 guys. And then there's one person called the coxswain. She's a little like they're smaller. And you're allowed to have like a girl on a men's team or a guy on a girl's team. The coxswain.
So rowing is unisex?
Sort of. So because the coxswain doesn't actually contribute to the speed of the boat directly, they just steer the boat so like you don't crash or something like that.
Okay.
Because the guys who are rowing, they can't see where they're going. But like sort of where I was going with that is like the 8 guys in the boat, like you're not always gonna love them. Like there's gonna be people who like, I mean, I've had it happen to me. I know like every team, like the teams that have won championships, Olympics, whatever, like there are people that like have beef or like people who just don't work well together. But like at the end of the day, like you kind of have to trust the guy behind you that like when you're hurting, he's also hurting and you're both pushing for the same thing. So I think the biggest thing that it sort of taught me is like being able to overcome like your differences on a personal level to work at like a professional like separating the art from the artist in a way.
That's true.
That makes
You know,
sense.
as they say, you can't mix personal with business.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So,
Yeah.
all right. And how you guys communicate and why you guys are in like these competitions, right? How you guys communicate to each other since you guys are rowing behind you outside of like what you call it, the coxswain.
The coxswain, yeah. So I mean, that's the coxswain's job. Like if you're pulling hard enough during the race, like you can't talk. Basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're just locked in.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, yeah.
Okay.
And so like the coxswain job, like I mean, we have all girl coxswains on the team right now, but it's like she'll just like usually scream at you and say like, okay, like 20 seconds from now we're gonna do this, and then like a minute from now like this is happening, basically, right?
Okay.
And so the races are usually around like 6 minutes long, a little bit faster usually.
Okay.
So they're pretty short, and you just kind of like drill it in. Like it's 2,000 meters is the race distance. So like from 0 to 250 we're doing this. 250 to 1K we're gonna like, I don't know, like we're gonna like stride out to like a more sustainable pace.
Okay.
And then like every like 200 meters from 1K until the finish line, we're just gonna like ratchet up slowly. For example, it's like a random race plan.
Is it like a straight line or?
It's a straight line, totally. Point A to point B in the fastest way you can. Yeah.
Okay.
And so the coxswain's job is to just basically like tell you, because like, I mean, in a race, like it's hard to explain, but like I like can't see sometimes during the race.
Right.
Because it's just like all about like you're at like 200 beats per minute for your heart rate like the whole time.
Jesus.
And so the coxswain is just like she keeps you on it. Like, okay, we're doing this now. But like in practice, like you practice, it's like a well-oiled machine. So they're just giving you like the external cue to sort of like execute what you know is their job.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and that's like all the communication that goes on. There's nothing else really.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think like also, I mean, we've had various themes where across this podcast where you have like sacrifice, family, and like motivation, but obviously discipline is what like you mentioned, like is what really keeps people kind of going. Because when you're locked into that mode, right, where you want to get something done, but you're really focused on the end goal, it's like you kind of just forget about your feelings and you're just focused on kind of achieving that. And so I think one thing where I've learned is where you kind of also have to ignore sometimes like the mentality of like, oh, I'm about to be tired, like I need to kind of lose energy, or I'm not just gonna get there, and you just have to kind of forget about that. So would you say you have like moments like that where kind of like going through a meet or you get out of an exam and you're like, oh, I'm super tired, I'm exhausted, but you just kind of like have to maneuver your way away from that and like say, that's just in the mind. It's not how I actually feel. Like you feel like you have the discipline to continue to keep going.
Yeah. I mean, definitely like there are a lot of moments where it's just like mind over matter.
Absolutely,
I mean, I've had plenty of times I'm up till like, like midnight, 1, whatever, like studying, and then I'll wake up at like 6 the next morning to catch the bus to go to practice. And like, I mean, like deep down a little bit, like, okay, I'm going to be slow today. Like it's not going to go well.
Right.
But you kind of also have to realize that like you can sort of force yourself to do something.
Oh yeah.
And like just making that conscious decision where like it's going to suck, but like I just kind of have to push through it and like tough it out for this practice or like this workout or this race or whatever. Like that does still make like a pretty big difference, even if you are like sleep deprived, like you haven't eaten, whatever,
And at the end of the day, it's like when you see those results, even after the sleep deprivation and after all the loss of sleep, the loss of appetite, it's like that's what's most satisfying. Like, and it gravitates, and there's a certain, I want to say like almost like a feeling that comes out of it, right? Where it's not a delayed gratification, but rather more so where you're like, all right, I was able to really succeed simply because I ignored the way I was feeling.
Yeah.
And that's the discipline aspect, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's like any successful rowing workout is like kind of, I mean, that's like the success you get out of it.
Oh, absolutely,
like,
yeah.
With like rowing, basically the whole reason you work out is pain tolerance.
Pain tolerance?
Yeah. Because like, so I mean, Jesse was talking about lactic acid earlier, right? That's like your body like builds up and that's what like hurts. That's what burns when you're exercising.
Okay.
And so basically like it's
The
on,
excess of it, yeah.
like it's on immediately during the race and it just builds and builds and builds and builds and builds throughout the race. And so like what makes like a good athlete separate from a bad athlete, and this goes for like any sport, but just because of like the specific distance of rowing, like it's like even more important than a lot of other places, is like the person who can keep producing like a certain amount of power, like at a higher pain, like lactic acid or like pain level, is going to go faster, right? Because like at some point, if it like hurts, like literally, like even if it's not mental, like physically, if there's too much lactic acid in your body, you just start shutting down.
Oh, yeah.
And so like if you can delay that shutdown, that's how you get faster. And so like any rowing workout basically is like you toe that line, and then just like every day you kind of like keep like towing it a little further,
Trying to push
further.
the goalposts, as they say.
Yeah, exactly. And so like kind of back to your point, like at the end of a workout, it's like you kind of, at least for me, like I find out a little bit more of like who I am. You know, it's like,
Right.
okay, like I just did that. Like I like really wanted to die for like 27 straight minutes, but like, you know, like we finished that, I'm done. And like it feels good to have like kind of push myself a little further today.
Right, because like at the end of the day, it's like tired is only in the mind, where you can kind of, if you're able to obviously ignore what your body's telling you at that moment, just for a temporary amount of time, but to complete that discipline, and it's like for instance, like you said, you got 4 hours of sleep and you wake up in the morning. The hardest thing you're doing is getting out of bed, right?
Yeah.
Like it's super easy. So many people and a lot of people are guilty of this, right? We're all guilty of this at some point, where you get up in the morning and then you hear that alarm, you hit snooze right away.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and it's kind of finding that power and finding that strength to like really get out of bed, make your bed in the morning, and then, you know, get dressed and do what you got to do, and then focus on going to practice. Then you have exams and go to class. It's like all of these things you're doing, it's like, yes, they're very small, but they all build to success later on in the day.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing, like when you get up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? Most people make their beds, right? And you're already starting your day off successfully.
Yeah.
Right.
By making your bed.
That's the goal. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
goal.
the goal, yeah.
Exactly.
In a
So,
perfect world.
Yeah.
in a perfect world.
Yeah.
Okay. And anyways, like, what got you into rowing? Out of all the sports you could have done,
Honestly, man, it was a gym credit. That's like, yeah. So like at my high school, right, you had to do either like PE or you had to do a sport, right? I mean,
Okay.
that's like
Nice.
classic, right?
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
do
yeah,
something. And like I did not want to take PE because I knew like that was gonna be a waste of time. I was like, dude, I'm gonna sit in here like playing dodgeball as like an 18-year-old senior year. Like I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
right? So my freshman year, I decided to pick up rowing because it was like I suck at basketball. I suck at like anything that like, you know, people in playing since they were 4. And rowing's a sport that like most people start like either 8th grade or 9th grade. Because it's like there's kind of like a minimum size you have to be to just be able to like physically just row. Because if you're too small, like the boats aren't made in different sizes. It's like one size basically.
Okay.
It's like a little different for like weight classes. But I mean, if you're like, you know, 4'8", like you just physically cannot like get the oar in the water. It's not built for that. So a lot of people start later. And I was like, all right, like I mean, these kids who did, you know, like cross country, swimming, whatever beforehand, like maybe they'll be more fit than me, but at least like we're starting kind of from like the same place, like in this specific sport. So I was like, I'll just do it for the gym credit, like I think it's like 3 times a week or something like that, like crazy commitment. I was like, I'm just gonna do it for the gym credit, and at least I won't like suck.
Yeah.
I sucked, and that like honestly that kind of annoyed me. So like first semester of my like freshman year of high school, I did it 3 times a week, and then I like sat down and I was like, okay, like if I'm already going 3 times a week, I'm ass. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm like so bad at this. Like, what if I just put in like 2 to 3 more days a week, and I actually try to get better at this thing. So my second semester, I did that, and at the end, I was like, okay, like I got better. Like I'm still not like the top of my team in high school, but I mean, it felt good to like just get better at something and like, you know, put in the work and whatever. And I just decided to like keep committing to it like sophomore year, junior year, senior year. And then just kind of went from there. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. No, like you said, you just go back to what you said. You're trying to get better.
And just
So-
1% better every day.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly.
goal.
And how many races do you do within a year?
It depends a lot. So in college, we do 6 or 7 total races. So we have like a regular season and a postseason, kind of like most other sports. But so the regular season in college, it's what's called match racing or dual racing, depending
Match
on
racing?
or dual racing, like either or. And it's like 1-on-1 or sometimes like 3 boats. You just race, right? And then the postseason is like championship season. So that's like we have our regional championship called Eastern Sprints, and then the national championship is the IRA. And so that's like 6 boats across. That's like heats, semifinals, finals.
Wow.
So it's like a progression system in those, but we only get 2 of those a year, right? You have sprints and then IRA, and that's it. Everything, like the 4 or 5 other races are dual races, like 1-on-1. You kind of test where you're at throughout the season, and then you get to kind of put it all out there.
When is the season? Is it the springtime or in the wintertime?
It's springtime. So it starts in April usually. Sometimes the last weekend of March, people will race. You race basically every weekend in April, Sometimes the first weekend of May for the regular season. There's a 2-ish week break usually. Then you get the Eastern Sprints regional, and then like 2 weeks break between that, and then the national championship is in June.
In June.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, that's not bad.
Yeah,
All right.
but I mean, we start like full-time training in September.
In September.
Yeah.
All right.
So because technically rowing is in season full year round.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are fall races. Columbia, like lightweights, we don't go to them. But right now, actually, like today, there's a race called the Head of the Charles. And so that's like the championship race for the fall,
Yeah.
which is raced over like 5,000 meters. So it's like 2-3 times longer than the like spring races.
Yeah.
And they're more like for fun. It's just for like props, like, oh, like I won this race in the fall. Like it's not going to matter when you're like standing at the end of the day, but it is like a cool like bragging rights kind of thing.
All right. That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. All right. So basically, you're just around the clock, just constantly practicing. I mean,
Yeah,
in
exactly.
sport, you always want to like keep yourself in the head game,
Exactly.
right? But
Going like
that's-
back and
that's
forth.
nice.
Yeah.
Now, obviously a little segue, but you mentioned you grew up in Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
what's it like, obviously, coming here to New York City, obviously big, this city, a lot of bright lights, and then compared to a small town like Pittsburgh, what's that transition been like?
Yeah,
for
I
you?
don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say Pittsburgh's exactly a small town, but I mean, it's definitely been a pretty big transition. Like, I don't know, something in Pittsburgh was like, you have to drive to kind of get everywhere.
Yeah, this is so
So-
true.
So like, you can really only go like 2, maybe 3 places a day, right? It's like home, school, and then like if you're gonna go like somewhere with your friends or something like that,
Yeah.
that's kind of it,
Okay.
right? And so I think you were talking about like the time management aspect, where like
Yeah.
my day was like actually a lot more planned living in Pittsburgh, because it's like I'm putting down minimum like 20, 30 minutes to get from point A to point B. I can't just like kind of drop everything and go somewhere if somebody wants me to, you know?
I see.
But in New York, like everything's so much closer, like especially in Columbia, like it's like, hella restaurants like everywhere.
Yeah.
You can go like downtown in like 15 minutes, whatever.
Pick a corner. There's like 5 different places you can eat.
Exactly.
Go to the gym.
Yeah.
There's a library, like literally all in the same block.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like the difference has been like now there's no really like excuse to be like, dude, that's too far, because it's like a 5-minute walk away. Like it's not too far.
Yeah.
Right. So coming to New York, it's actually been like I've had to be more like kind of self-aware of like I can't just like try to do everything, because then you're just gonna crash and burn. Like you're gonna run out of time.
Do you enjoy it though? Do you
No,
find, do you find it more convenient?
Yeah, I love New York. I mean, I love the city. It's just like compared to like growing up in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
like that's been like kind of big transition where like you do need to have more like self-control. And I'm obviously like coming to college, like in general, like you have to be more of like your own man kind of.
Right.
But I think going from Pittsburgh, which is like it's basically just like a big suburban city, right? Like most like Ohio, whatever, like any city in that area, it's gonna be kind of like that.
40 minutes from the border to Ohio.
Yeah, exactly. And so like coming from that to New York, it's been like a kind of bigger transition.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think in general, everybody says like going from any small town going into the big city
Exactly.
is a whole different world.
Yeah.
Versus like myself, born and raised in the city.
Yeah.
When I go away from the city, it's a cool change of pace. But I'm personally, for me, I'm to the point where it's like, if I'm away from the city for like more than a week and I just hear just straight quiet, because on those places, those suburban
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing. Yeah.
it's mute.
Yeah.
So after a week, I start to go like, yo, I need to hear a car horn or something. Like,
Yeah,
give me
yeah.
something.
Yeah, you just get like a little bored.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned in the summer you had an
Yeah.
internship.
So I for viewers, I lived in Pittsburgh this past summer for 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was in the more metro area, so I lived in downtown already.
Oh yeah.
So I was pretty close to work when I was working at BNY, and it was like, it was great because it felt like a mini NYC at times during the day, because it's like you're in the metro area of Pittsburgh, but like at night, like everything was just like kind of quiet, like not.
Yeah.
That's I'd say. Compared to someone who's so used to like I grew up right across the street from Weill Cornell Presbyterian Hospital. I hear an ambulance maybe every 10 to 12 minutes. And so like an ambulance siren like definitely helps me to go to sleep. I mean, when you're doing that for 21 years, like you're just so used to it, right?
Yeah.
Versus like when you go to Pittsburgh, it's like it's a lot more quiet. I'd say that it was nice because it was an easy adjustment, since I was also moving over the same course time period, right? So I moved to Monroe, New York, an hour up from here, which is upstate New York, which is like suburban area, like very quiet. Similar to Pittsburgh, you need a car definitely to get around. Like it's nothing's really walking distance over there.
Yeah.
So I would say like when I'd go back home, and now I'm going back to Monroe and not New York City anymore over the summer to go home, it's like I got more used to the quiet feel. But I'd definitely say living in Pittsburgh was definitely it was a cool experience. Everything was like so nearby. It felt like a more tight knit community. I would definitely say like being right across the street from PNC Park and seeing all the Pirates fans go over Clemente Bridge, and it makes for excellent runs too. So.
Yeah, don't they say Pittsburgh's like the city of bridges?
Yes, City of Bridges. Yeah.
Like,
How many bridges are there?
Oh, like 10, 12?
No, more. I mean,
More?
if you count railroad bridges, it's like in the hundreds apparently.
Wow.
It's second to Venice only.
Damn.
Wow.
I know New York, I think we have like 20 some bridges.
I mean, to put this in context for you guys, so when I was in downtown Pittsburgh, I was living right on the road that connects you right to Clemente Bridge, and so like when I would go on a run in that area, I was already going over like 4 to 5 bridges because I would just like make a loop. I'd go right into North Shore, run right next to PNC Park, pass by Steelers Stadium, and then like come back around to Point Park, and then make my loop. And in doing so, I was going over like 4 to 5 bridges, like just going back and forth. Yeah. And so you definitely build a lot of resistance to the incline.
Is there just like a lot of rivers or something?
Yeah. So like
the
like shape of Pittsburgh, it's like a triangle. So like these are the 2 rivers.
Okay.
Like this is Pittsburgh proper, and then like they kind of formed this 3rd river right here. And so like it's like that little triangle in there, and then also like up top and below are also technically part of Pittsburgh. So you got like bridges going like every which way. Yeah, and it used to be like a major like steel manufacturing town.
Yeah, I think I heard of that.
Yeah, so you got like a ton of just like railroad tracks like coming in and out, and like shipping lanes and stuff like that. So it's like there are a lot more industrial bridges than like highway or like transport bridges.
Okay.
But I mean,
but they're there.
Yeah, they're
exactly.
there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's our claim to fame.
And don't forget, Pittsburgh's also like the city of steel. So like you see like a lot of steel as well.
Yeah.
Like in Pittsburgh.
There go the Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers.
Yeah,
exactly.
Go Buccos.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Yeah. Do you watch any other sports? Do you watch sports in general?
Yeah, I watch sports in general. Pittsburgh sports been kind of depressing recently. Yeah, so I watched a lot more when I was younger.
Yeah.
Honestly, now I kind of follow basketball more. Like my roommate, I've lived with him for like 3 years now.
Yeah.
He's really into basketball. He's from San Francisco area, so he loves the Warriors. I just kind of like, just like kind of tag along, and like I don't like particularly because Pittsburgh doesn't have a basketball team. It's the one major.
I'm like, do they got
That's
one?
the one sport I feel like they're missing because they have the Penguins for hockey, you got
Pirates,
the Pirates for
Steelers.
baseball, and then Steelers for football, but they don't have a basketball team.
Yeah, so like I kind of like no stake in that. So it's like if I'm watching like football, I'm like, dude, the Steelers suck. If I'm watching the Pirates, like consistently like one of the worst like franchises in the league.
I mean, they have Paul Skeens, and I was like, I went to a few games. Actually, there was a few I went to, and they were like really fun. Like they actually ended up winning. But it's definitely the stadium really nice.
Yeah.
What I will say though is going back to like the basketball scene though, you guys don't have a basketball team, but I feel like there is a pretty big basketball scene in Pittsburgh. Like when some of the interns, we would go to Mellon Park to play basketball, and there was like quite a few locals that were playing around, and I was like, it's kind of bringing back that New York City vibe of like any park you go to, you'll find some people like shooting hoops and playing basketball. So
yeah, I mean, there are definitely people that like play basketball, but it's just not like, I don't know, like
nothing to root for, and like at your heart of hearts. I mean, nothing that definitively you can say this is my team of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, exactly.
Besides the college sports, right? Like, you have D1 basketball. Like Duquesne was in March Madness. Like
college is one thing, and then like the major,
exactly.
But so like so I don't like care as much if like the team I'm like rooting for on that day loses. So it's like less bad. But like if I'm watching a team that I've like loved since childhood, like just getting destroyed every year and like not making the playoffs, I'm like, okay, like I don't know if I want to keep watching this as much.
Me with the Mets.
Welcome to New York. Well, I mean. As of recording, I'm gonna just throw it out there. The Yankees are in the World Series.
Oh my god!
Hallelujah! But we're not gonna get into that. I just want to point that out.
You just had to say that, didn't you?
I mean, we're already bringing it up. I should throw it out there.
As of recording, the Mets are currently down 3-2 in the NLCS against the Los Angeles Dodgers, and they play Game 6 tonight and Game 7 tomorrow at the time of this recording. So, knock on wood. Hopefully, they can make the Cinderella comeback of the year.
It's all good, bro. It's all good. The real New York team is there. But again, we're not gonna get into this because we could go every episode talking about
exactly.
But okay. And with your focus on pre-med, I assume you want to be like a doctor or surgeon. Like what is that end goal for you with that?
Yeah, I mean, so like I mean in general, like I just kind of like medicine, like the healthcare is just like not actually always, but like it's been something that like I've wanted to do like recently. Like I started more so actually just like I was interested in like biology and like chemistry a little bit, like that like science aspect of it
Yeah.
was like very interesting to me.
Mhm.
Because like coming out of high school, honestly, I didn't have like one like career path, like I'm gonna be a doctor, like whatever else, you know. I was like, okay, like this stuff's really cool, like let me learn more about it. And so I'm a neuroscience major. That's my like
Neuroscience.
yeah, so that's my
Yeah.
like kind of like official major. Like pre-med's just like, you know,
That's
I'm
just
also
a
doing
track, yeah.
classes, yeah, to apply to med school later. And I took some like classes about like the brain, like both psychology and then also like the anatomy of the brain, stuff like
I
that.
see.
And like that's something that's like super cool to me because it's like, you know, like the idea of like a black box, like you put something in, you get something out, but you don't know what's happening in between.
Yeah.
And like
That's
that's like, I mean, with how advanced like I think we are in like so many fields, like it's one of the things that we still understand so little.
Yeah.
And so that's like what's super interesting to me.
I agree. I agree.
And then like the kind of like med aspect of it, right, is like I mean, so like my family's from Turkey, right? Like my grandparents' generation, they were like tobacco farmers. I know it's probably not a great like industry to be in, but
Yeah.
like tobacco farmers. And then like my parents, they went to college, like the first in their families,
Cool.
came to the U.S. And so like, you know, whenever I go back to Turkey, it's like, you know, like smaller, like actual like villages, like 300, 400 people, like farms and stuff. I mean, I love it there, but like I also get to see like there's like both a pretty big shortage of like doctors around there, and there's also like a distrust in like specifically the Turkish like healthcare system because it's quite corrupt. I mean,
Mhm. Corrupt
so-
town.
like there's a lot of like just nepotism placements, and
Oh, I
then
see.
like
Yeah.
like kind of like wrong prescriptions of drugs. There's like a big epidemic of like healthcare workers getting assaulted in like Turkey right now
Wow.
because like they kind of like I mean family members get really riled up. They don't think the doctor's doing their job, and so
Mm.
there's like it's like reciprocal cycle of like healthcare workers don't want to work in the small villages, and the villages say, oh, they hate us. So it's like the cycle of like
Wow.
yeah. And but I kind of like end up seeing like how negatively like that's affected my family because like a lot of people they're getting older, so they have like different you know ailments, and like it sucks like seeing like they don't have like the help they need like just getting around the house even, and like that's kind of a role that I over the summers like I mean I was very lucky to be able to visit Turkey like go out of the country at all, but like over the summers like I'd go there and like helping out has always been something that's kind of been ingrained with me over the summers. Like I'm always helping my like relative like just like do housework, get their medicine, like XYZ.
Mhm.
And like I kind of sat down like over like the course of like the first little bit in college, and I was thinking I was like I'm really interested in science, but like I can't really see myself doing a career that's just like teaching or like I can't see myself like going into finance or anything like that. So I was like, you know, I feel like being a doctor is something that like would kind of help me use this ingrained like helping someone that I've done like every single year of my life.
It gives you some sort of sense of like I don't want to say reward, but like
Like giving back a
accomplishment.
little bit,
Exactly.
yeah.
And
The-
like you're giving back.
So like I kind of relate to this. I mean, so for context, Alptuğ and I, we take a lot of our pre-med classes together. That's how we kind of know each other. So it's like
Yeah.
freshman year now.
Yeah, it's
right?
the
So it's
freshman
like
year, yeah.
Gen Chem all the way to now in Biochem. I would say like a lot of similarities. Like I would say like, you know, growing up, I've spoken about this already, but like I kind of got to see what it was like where my mom's a physician. So seeing her kind of like take care of her mom and then working in cancer research at Weill Cornell, it's like you get surrounded by all these like aspects, and it's like they definitely play a big role into like what you want to do. And like when I got out of high school, I knew I really liked biology. Like that was like I took biology. We called it like Regents biology here in New York City. You definitely took it if you went to high school here.
Biology regions? I
No.
don't think I took a biology region.
Really? Oh,
I
it's like-
mean, I know I probably
Yeah.
did some sort of science. No, I was
But-
like earth science.
Yeah, okay.
Earth science. That's
But-
what
okay.
I did.
So like here in New York City, like a lot of the public
Anyway.
a lot of the public school systems, they take like they have like, you know, different classes, and it's like the general sciences. You go through bio, you go through chemistry, you go through
Yeah.
physics and whatnot. And then my freshman year I took a biology class, and I had this teacher named Miss Sterling, and she was a fabulous teacher at Eleanor Roosevelt, and just remember I just fell in love with the way she taught the class, and it was just like something that was so eye-breaking to me was like when learning about the cell, learning about the mitochondria, a lot of the basics, right? And I was like, this is something I definitely want to do. Like I knew as a freshman in high school that I want to be a bio major. Like but like I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know necessarily if I wanted to go right into medicine. Like I was surrounded by it, coming from a healthcare family, but that was like, okay, like what do I really want to do when I get here? So you start taking all these pre-med classes. We took Gen Chem, we took Orgo, we've taken bio, and then you start really seeing like what we call weed out courses here at Columbia. So like where they become demotivated. They start to forget the end goal because the class becomes too hard for them, or they don't get the grade they necessarily want. And that's what really keeps you going, is like knowing that, okay, I'm going to be a physician one day, but like I'm going to be taking care of patients and I'm going to be taking care of people. And like, what's the biggest way you can give back to them? Yeah. And it's like when you save a life, or like my mom always tells me, like she'll never forget like the moment where like she lost like where you lose like your first patient. It's like the hardest thing in healthcare is losing a patient. And there was like this kid, long story short, who the mom came in, and the kid had like type 1 diabetes, and so they needed a syringe to get him insulin. But the hospital my mom worked at was a government hospital in the Dominican Republic, and so they didn't have basic medical supplies sometimes. And so one of the things they didn't have was a syringe, something as basic as a syringe. There's a pharmacy down the street, and my mom told the mother to you should go to the pharmacy to go get it, because they're not allowed to leave the hospital, so they have to kind of just tell the patient to like go get so that they could save your baby's life. And she refused to, and so that was like the hardest thing for my mom, was like knowing that they're gonna lose a 2-year-old simply because they don't have a syringe to get insulin. Was like it's very eye-opening, right? Yeah. And so unfortunately, like literally the very next day, the baby died, and at the age of 2, and the mom was just like ecstatic, like in terms of the way she was just like crying and screaming. And like my mom said that was a really hard moment, like in healthcare, where you kind of like, you'll never forget the very first 2 patients you meet and you lose, right? And so like you going back to like healthcare disparities is definitely like a big issue, and that's something that like I look back in Dominican Republic, where a lot of times where basic medical supplies where you could save someone's life, and you don't have that. That's definitely really, really hard. Yeah. So definitely. But I mean, yeah. So being pre-med and then now going on to rowing here, do you have like any other I guess aspirations like beyond rowing, like from after college, or you just plan on going straight to med school? Or
no, you mean like for rowing specifically?
Yeah, yeah. Like, or like what's after May 25 basically for Alptuğ?
I mean, I'm applying hopefully in June. Okay. So I'm gonna have to take at least 1 year between graduating and going to med school. Right. So I'm planning on working as a lab technician. Yeah. A lab technician. So just like kind of doing like grunt work. Yeah. Like it'll be like
it's a common route.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You do like 9 to 5. You just like do experiments, kind of do what you're told. So should be fun. Should be like not like super stressful. Mm-hmm. But like on the rowing aspect of things, like you're kind of done like for the most part. Like after college, once you row, like I might pick it up like later as a hobby. Right. But I think like unless you're going like straight to the national team, there's no like path forward. There's no like pro rowing. Right. So like either you're good enough to like know that you can go to the Olympics,
all the way,
or you're just like not gonna do it. And like I mean, I'm not going to the Olympics. Let's be real. So yeah, it's kind of it. Like I'll like probably stay in shape in some other way, honestly. Like because rowing it's like a very like monotonous sport. Like you're just like doing the same motion over and over again. So I'm honestly thinking just like picking up something else, like either like running, lifting weights. Like on a cycling's kind of expensive. I don't know if I'll do that, but like something like that to stay in shape, But yeah, definitely gonna take like a year or 2 at least off rowing after college.
I mean, at least you have a path, you have direction,
you
have some options at those.
Exactly.
In some ways. That's cool. And is there any other places like outside, like any place that people if they want to look for you, say Instagram or any place they can check out your games,
like to contact you or to
watch it? I mean, I got an Instagram. It's just my name, Alptuğ Kaynar. You guys can find it. I mean, it'll probably be in
down below in the description.
Yeah. So there. I mean, rowing's like kind of tough to watch. Like, I mean, if you want to go out to like Hanover, New Hampshire, and watch our like Dartmouth duel or something like that.
Where do you guys even do the rowing then?
So it's just like wherever there's a river, basically. So like every school has its own like kind of body of water. Like ours is out in New Jersey. Like we race.
Damn.
Like on the Hudson?
No, not in Hudson. It's a lake called Overpeck in like Leonia, New Jersey. So yeah, I know like
that's near Inglewood.
Yeah, it's near there. Yeah. So like we do there, and then like basically every other like we race the Ivies during the regular season. Yeah. So like Cornell, you got to go all the way up to Ithaca. Dartmouth, you got it there. Okay. Yale, Penn, you go to Philly, whatever. So like kind of I don't know, like it moves around a lot, and it's not really a spectator sport. Like there's some live streams and stuff. Yeah. But yeah, that is like there aren't like really like any bright lights with rowing because like no one's watching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fair enough. All right.
Yeah, but I mean there are live streams and like. I think Columbia for like the big races, like Eastern, like the regional championship, Eastern sprints, and then IRA and like June stuff. They'll probably usually share like a live stream link or something like that.
Okay.
So it'll be on like whatever like Columbia Athletics like Instagram.
We'll have the Columbia Rowing official website down below in the description.
Yeah. You should put our team run Instagram too.
Okay. I'll tag the Instagram page as well.
Yeah. Let's go.
But yeah, I think that's we're out of time, right, Rafi? So pleasure for having you out too. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me,
share some
guys.
words
Really
of
appreciate
wisdom.
it.
No, it was great. It was great.
And learn from your
a lot
story.
about rowing.
Yeah.
Learn a lot
I'll
about
never use the
rowing.
knowledge again.
Hey,
Yeah.
rowing is cool. No, I mean it's one of those sports where it's like you don't know, people don't talk about it enough.
Yeah.
But it is definitely it's a sport in itself. You know,
Absolutely.
there's skill, there's talent, there's hard work, and with anything in life, you just need to just stay disciplined. Outside of just the motivation, have consistency.
Yeah.
That's
And
all it
with
is.
it
Yeah.
all, you'll eventually get where you want.
Yeah, exactly.
But as always, guys, you already know it's your boy Rafa
Boy
Jesse.
Jesse.
and right
Alptuğ.
here, Alptuğ,
Yeah.
and we out here.
Yeah,
Defy all
peace.
the odds.
Defy all the
guys.
odds.